We also had, on the bus side, we had 10 routes, 10 lines that we canceled. We had 19 lines that we rerouted or detoured to get to their end terminus. We had 75 buses, roughly, that got chained through the event, the majority of them at mobile chaining centers out in the system. But we dispatched our maintenance crews from the garages to assist at the West Terminus and at Beaverton Transit Center with chaining buses in the field, and then chaining as many buses as we can when they come past the garages at the 3 locations. Obviously, the weather predictions were far from accurate or anything that materialized on that afternoon. It's very difficult to chain buses in the field. Not impossible, but difficult and time-consuming. And I think, you know, the men and women in the maintenance department and transportation department on that day did a good job trying to provide the best service they could for the customers that were either waiting or boarding their vehicles. Again, gridlock traffic played the key role in the switch modifications that we have already done proved to be worth their investment, and we're looking forward to the rest of this year doing the embedded switches to eliminate that in the future.
I have one question. Because of the snowstorm, I received a number of employee, I don't want to call them complaints, but opportunities to change things. And for you all to change things because I don't manage. But one, drivers were upset about a 4-hour window to pick them up in a situation like this if their bus breaks down versus trying to get to them. You know, they're out in the elements and they have to turn that bus off or whatever, so they're in those elements as well. Should we be looking at trying to get them as quickly as possible versus a 4-hour window? That was one, and it was, I can't, as you talk, I try to remember the other one. But that was one of the things that really came to me.
There were a number of things from last December's snowstorm that we looked at trying to do better in the event of the 40-year storm hitting again this year. And what we tried to focus on was the operator, the response time to them and the equipment, the management of service that would provide not maybe on time or on schedule performance, but regular service. With the gridlock, all of that was almost difficult. Even the rescue crews to go out and have the stuck buses or the operators still had the same traffic congestions that they had to deal with to normally do their commute or their bus ride. So it's on our list. We work every time we have these, Bob, to manage that time to its minimum point. We work to improve.
Let me maybe just be as pointed as I can, though, on that one, Bob. We learned in the last a year ago, December event, that we had been focusing on kind of the operational sides of the equation. That is, how do we get vehicles changed so we can make and serve customers, all that. We needed also out of that, lesson learned was to be able to respond to the operators. We actually had systems in place to be able to respond to those operators, and the frustration in this one was they couldn't get there because the roads were blocked and they couldn't physically get there. But we really learned that lesson, and I think that's pretty rare in this circumstance that we had anybody sitting out there for 4 hours. I'm sure it happened in a few occasions, but it was not for lack of it being focused on, it was for lack of being able to physically get to them. I also, I know we're going to start getting short on time, I asked Carolyn, you know, one of the issues we look at here obviously is what do our customers say about an event after this? And maybe you could just kind of run through the numbers.
Well, we received about 150 contacts through telephone or email after the event. Almost 60% were people that wanted to tell us about their bus operator and how terrific they were. So we got story after story after story of people calling us just to let us know that their bus operator handled the situation extremely well, and they wanted to commend that bus operator. So 60% were those kinds of calls. The rest of them were things like, my bus didn't show up, or my train didn't show up. You know, just frustration like everybody else had with the storm, but very few complaints about being stuck, or, you know, most people understood that everybody was stuck. But it was, you know, it's unusual to get that number of commendations, and, you know, when people are frustrated about service. So it was, you know, really great to see that.
Well, I do think that a most unusual circumstance existed. Many people on the road who ordinarily, had they known that there was going to be snow in the forecast, would not have been on the road. Many vehicles that would have been better prepared for snow would have been. I'm one of the ones that I waited 3 hours to go 4 miles. There were buses in front of me and so forth. I mean, no one was going anywhere. And so I think under the circumstances, it's a lesson to be learned. It's one, Sue, as you point out, what if we had some other type of disaster? I think it would be crippling. At one time, the police chief and others, and several of us in the business community, funded an effort called the Center for Disaster Decision Making, in which various disasters, including terrorist attacks that would cripple transit systems like this, were modeled. So I don't know if any of that work is still going on, but it's a real issue. This was a very, very unusual set of circumstances that was driven by traffic rather than strictly by weather.
Carolyn, I saw the article in the paper about Mayor Adams using Twitter to give people up to the minute information. And everyone was asking, TriMet should be doing that too. And how did it work in terms of getting people immediate information about their bus not coming or their train being delayed?
Actually, I was going to cover that in the next agenda item, which I think I'll volunteer to do another time because we're running short of time. But we are on Twitter, and we reach people several different ways. About 20,000 of our riders are signed up for email alerts, so they can sign up, you know, just for their bus or for the whole system. They can do it line by line. And so we do send those email alerts out. They're automatic anytime a bus goes on a detour, there's service is stopped or anything like that. So you can sign up for an email alert. We are on Twitter. We're still experimenting with it. What we know is that we can't respond when we get a lot of, you know, chatter, a lot of tweets that come back to us. But we did tweet out about every hour what we knew. So it's kind of a pilot for this kind of situation. What we're doing next time is empowering several of our people that are on the street to actually tweet things that they see. So we'll have several TriMet employees out there on Twitter letting those people know that use Twitter. So, you know, Sam was kind of called Cyber Sam during this whole event. We were watching what he was sending out. We were trying to supplement it. But I think it's going to be a very powerful tool in the future.